Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Bells in Britain are tolling as the nation and the world mourn the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. At 96 years old, she was the longest reigning monarch in British history.
London Bridge is down were the code words spoken upon the Queen's death. They set in motion events leading up to the coronation of her son, King Charles III. Brody Carter brings us the story of Queen Elizabeth's life and legacy.
Royal gun salutes, flowers, moments of silence, and heartfelt tributes are among the commemorations in Britain and worldwide, mourning the death of Queen Elizabeth II.
Because the Queen was respected around the world.
United Kingdom's Prime Minister Liz Truss hailed the Queen as the rock of modern Britain.
Our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her.
A double rainbow appeared in the sky over Buckingham Palace shortly before the announcement of the Queen's death, news that stunned the public.
Shocked. I can't believe it. I'm gutted. Absolutely gutted.
Quite shocking, really. You kind of always knew it was coming, but when it happens, it's just sad.
Born April 21st, 1926 in London's Mayfair district, Queen Elizabeth was born to King George VI and became the Princess of Wales during the Second World War. And when her father died of cancer while she was on her honeymoon with Prince Philip, the 25-year-old princess became queen in 1952.
Prime Minister Winston Churchill is among the dignitaries who watch as the Archbishop of Canterbury confirms Elizabeth's sovereignty by placing on her head the 6-pound King Edward's crown.
Known for her pageantry as a royal queen, her exemplary leadership, and her public statements of faith in Jesus Christ, Queen Elizabeth even developed a friendship founded in faith with the famous American evangelist Billy Graham.
For me, the teachings of Christ and my own personal accountability before God provide a framework in which I try to lead my life. I, like so many of you, have drawn great comfort in difficult times from Christ's words and example.
The monarch in Britain is in some ways the head of the Church of England, and she took that role very, very seriously.
Nicoletta Golace, historian of British history at the University of New Hampshire, says the Queen honored that position and remembered those who served her country in wartime.
She never missed a Remembrance Sunday when people remembered the veterans of the 2 world wars. In fact, this year she tried very hard to make it, but her mobility and health issues got in the way. But the other times, she only missed it when she was pregnant. She attended church services regularly, and as you said, she gave a warming and inspiring address to the nation every single Christmas.
And her handling of foreign relations, along with the pageantry of the crown, made her a beloved figure around the world. London Bridge is down. Those are the code words for the Queen's death, spoken Thursday by her private secretary to inform the Prime Minister and the Council, setting into motion the events leading up to the coronation of her son, King Charles III.
I think that this is going to shake Britain to the core, but it's also going to have an impact on people throughout the Commonwealth, some of whom looked upon her as a crown head, even though they were living in independent countries.
Great Britain recently celebrated the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, a commemoration of 70 years on the throne. Elizabeth ruled longer than any other monarch in British history. The Queen died at Balmoral Castle, her summer estate in the Scottish Highlands. That's where she's been since the month of July. Her death came shortly after an announcement from Parliament about her failing health, leading to a new monarch on the throne who will have a formal coronation, although he already took the throne upon his mother's death.
He is king because the minute the spirit left the Queen's body, he became the king. It is a mystical thing that happens.
Britain now begins 10 days of mourning. The Queen's body will be sent by train to King's Cross Station. Charles will be there with Prime Minister Truss. Now, the Queen will lie in state at Westminster Hall, and the funeral will take place at Westminster Abbey. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Well, it truly is an end of the age where you look at her career, what she stood for, and how she stood so strong. Her Christmas addresses to the nation, to the entire world, were famous. She would write them. One of her titles, and it's a title that I think sometimes gets ignored, but one of her titles is Defender of the Faith. And here are some of the words that she wrote in one of her Christmas addresses. It was after a year of sorrow for her. I know just how much I rely on my own faith to guide me through the good times and the bad. Each day is a new beginning. I know that the only way to live my life is to try to do what is right, to take the long view, to give all of my best in all that the day brings, and to put my trust in God. Those are wonderful words, and almost as a signature, an approval from heaven, if you will, the rainbows that were over Buckingham Palace. There was also reports of a rainbow over Balmoral Palace and another rainbow over Windsor Palace. So it's like God giving a signature, well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
In other news, Christians continue to help Ukrainians who are fleeing from Russian aggression. Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN Newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, Ukrainians trapped in areas occupied by Russia are enduring terrible hardships, and many of them are now making their way through Russia to Baltic countries. And that's where Christians are stepping up to help. Chuck Holton brings us this story.
More than 7 million people fled their homes as a result of the conflict in Ukraine, the greatest mass migration since World War II. And in the areas taken over by the Russian army, there's often little left of homes and infrastructure.
Suddenly, I heard an explosion, and my doors were blown out. I felt a little draft and took a torch to find out what it was. I saw the door was missing, and all the windows on the balcony were broken.
Many of these residents feel stuck without documents or resources to leave. But now they're leaving anyway to escape the coming winter. And to do so, they have to traverse the country of their enemy, Russia.
This 15th century Ivangorod fortress on the other side of the river there marks the boundary between Russia and where I'm standing here in Estonia. And it also marks the end of a very long and stressful journey for hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians who have made the journey more than 1,500 miles to this bridge right over here where they enter the European Union.
This cruise ship in Tallinn's harbor is now a temporary home for 2,000 Ukrainians. While the Estonian government is helping with a small stipend and other social programs, it's still a tough transition.
It's hard on the children. That's why we try to keep everything positive, to not talk about it, as if everything is fine, as if we just changed our place of residence.
Cramped conditions on board the ship are nothing compared to what these Ukrainians endured to get here.
They surrounded me with their weapons and said, "You do not get to choose where you will go. We choose." And I said, "Sorry, but we are not cattle. We are humans."
This tiny Baltic nation has taken in more than 50,000 refugees since the beginning of the war.
It's about 3–4% of the population that has come to Estonia as refugees. And we're not even counting the people who have just come through. You know, for context, that's about 10 million people in the United States.
79-year-old Zoya never traveled more than a few miles from her home in Mariupol before it was bombed by the Russians.
Now we have nowhere else to go. What's worse, we have no electricity, no gas. I doubt we'll have heat this winter.
After Zoya arrived here with little more than the clothes on her back, local church members volunteered to take her in.
The people at our church wanted to see if anybody would be able to help her out, put her up for a couple of nights, and we figured we might as well do that.
I am so grateful for this family. How can they treat me so well when we aren't even family? We did not ask for Russia to save us. Maybe 5% of the people in Mariupol supported the Russians. But you'd have to be on drugs to look at these blackened, bombed-out buildings and think that this is what it looks like to be saved.
Ukrainians aren't the only ones crossing into Estonia in search of a better future. There are thousands of Russians here as well.
I immigrated from Russia in 2015. And one of the reasons I immigrated was that I felt that I'm growing up or living in a country of aggressor.
I think this war should not have happened. We just broke into our neighbors and started killing them for no reason. These things should not happen in the 21st century.
In Tallinn, Estonia, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Turning now to the Middle East, for the first time, Israeli archaeologists have uncovered rare pieces of ivory from the Old Testament era of Israel's first temple. As Julie Stahl reports from Jerusalem, it provides more clues about what life was like during that ancient time.
These decorative pieces help experts continue to put together the historic puzzle of Jerusalem from more than 2,500 years ago.
We found a complete corpus of small ivory plates, inlays that used to decorate large wooden furnitures, for example, beds or doors or something like that. It's the first time that are found here in Jerusalem or in Judea.
The discovery of some 1,500 tiny pieces happened at the sprawling City of David dig site in the ruins of a large palatial building that would have been in use as far back as 800 BC.
And it means that Jerusalem was an important city, that the elite of Jerusalem were people of high rank, important enough to communicate with their peers at the elite of Assyria and other places in the empire.
Israel Antiquities Authority archaeologist Yiftach Shalev says the items were most likely made outside of Israel.
It's a very delicate art. You need to remember that ivory is most probably one of the most prestige and most expensive items in the world, more expensive than gold. And only few people knew how to work with it.
Shalev says it's not clear how the ivory pieces arrived in Jerusalem.
They might come as part of trade, or even more likely came as gift between peer polity interaction. Maybe one of the elite families in Assyria gave these as gift for the local elite or something like that.
Shalev says the structure where the tiny fragments were discovered is historic in its own right.
We're digging one of the largest structures from the First Temple period ever to be found in Jerusalem. It had 2 stories. We found the house destroyed. It was burnt in huge fire, most probably during the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians in 586 BC.
Archaeologists also found seals in 15 broken jars that contained wine spiced with vanilla. Given these discoveries, Shalev says, it's clear the residents were part of elite Jerusalem and well connected to the royal family. Julie Stahl, CBN News, the City of David, Jerusalem.
These finds are always exciting. Gordon?
It's always wonderful to see the Bible come to life, that the record of the Bible is literally written in stone. In this case, written in ivory. The Bible says that King Solomon had a throne of ivory. It's well known that they ate on couches, they reclined for dinner, and to find the ivory remnants of that furniture is really incredible.